job. Yeah. I'm Brandon Joffe, and I was asked to speak to you guys about young women's empowerment. And, me, an old guy, speaking to you about young women's empowerment. So can you be nice, please? Empowerment's one of those words that we see all over social media. We're seeing it on huge campaigns. People are using that word and literally spending billions, not millions, but billions of dollars to convince people to buy their products because they're using the word empowerment, right? Empowerment this, empowerment that, empowerment for women, empowerment for boys, empowerment all over the place, through sports, through products, through whatever it might be. And so I kind of was excited when Ms. Marquez asked me to speak about empowerment, because I think, like many terms, we are using it in a way that is unhealthy, and it's almost like a sacred word, right? Now, I was told that you guys have something here, a concept that is really important called sisterhood. Is that true? Yep. Okay, yeah? Tell me, no, good, I like that, yeah. What is sisterhood? What do you guys mean by that in this community of young women? Building each other up, and then you said depending on each other. Okay, I love that. Building each other up and depending on each other. Okay, now empowerment, it's kind of funny, right? I agree. Depending on each other is an important piece of empowerment, but a lot of people think that empowerment is I only do it myself. So thank you for that. What else? Tell me about the sisterhood concept that you have here at this school. There is a difference between loving on and loving. Loving on is the action of showing love. It's something people experience. Love is that thing you keep to yourself, and a lot of times because we love our friend or we love our family, we use that as a justification for certain things instead of holding ourselves accountable to love through loving on. You empower each other not because I love you. You empower each other through the actions of loving on each other. Young women helping each other. Okay, you have an opportunity to go to a school that most people will never get to go to. Most places do not have a concept of sisterhood. They are not telling young women or men to stand up and support each other. Most schools have this kind of like culture of getting on top. Empowerment, a community of empowerment, is not a culture of I'm going to get on top, I'm always going to do better than, I'm going to get my own. The culture of empowerment, empowering yourself and your friends, means that you're supporting each other. You're doing your best. You want to achieve. You've got to want to achieve. But achieving is not the main goal. The goal is to be your best while supporting others, even if they're struggling to be their best. When I think of young women helping each other, sometimes it's easy. It's really easy when you click. Does everybody know what that means, to click? Right? That's like when you get along, you like how somebody looks, you like how they act, you like how they smell, or whatever else it is that you like. Okay? Clicking. Every one of you right here is really good at empowering each other when you click. Right? Has anybody ever noticed clicks around Rosary? Yeah. Right? And some of you are going, yeah, and I've got the best click ever, and it feels good. And there's a few of you right now who go, yeah, there's clicks all over the place, and I'm not a part of. And it's easy to support and love on one another to empower the people you click with. Don't stop doing that. Okay? But I'm going to challenge each and every one of you today to look outside of your clique, to look outside of your small group and friends, to empower women here at this school that you are not in agreement with, that you don't click with. Okay? Now, there's some of you who are going, I'm not a part of a clique. I've got no friends, or I've got one friend. I'm going to challenge you, because there might be a time that you need to empower walk alongside, support somebody who you feel has never supported you. It goes both ways. My challenge to this school, to this amazing 2 classes of young women, is to get a heart at the end of the day to empower people, empower others here in this community that you wouldn't normally think to empower. Okay? It's easy to empower people when you're in a good place. Who's in a good place today? When you wake up and you are studied up for the test that you have, when you wake up in a good mood, when your parents are off your back, when all the teachers like you, it's not that hard to empower other people. It's not that hard to what I call walking alongside them. Empowering is not doing for somebody, it is walking alongside them. And that's easy when you're in a good place. That's easy when you're focusing on the clique around you. Here's the thing. There's all these really trendy, cool things, and we need those trends to empower people. We want people to get motivated. We want people to get excited. We want people to get recognized. It's really easy to empower each other, to empower somebody that you don't really know when there's a cause, and you're going to be appreciated for it, and you're going to get recognition for it. Now, I don't want to take away from that. Don't not participate in those just because I'm mentioning it, but it's easy to do that, right? When I'm on social media, I'm terrible at it, but I see my 40-something-year-old friends constantly jumping on some new trend, and I'm really stoked because a lot of times it has to do with mental health, and I see this whole month-long strive to help people mental health-wise or help a community that was unrecognized before, and I love it, but it lasts for a month, maybe 2 months, and then it goes away. And it's great, but it's kind of like motivation, right? When you're motivated, you do something for like a few weeks, maybe a month, and then you stop doing it. Okay? True, long-lasting empowerment goes beyond the trends. It goes beyond just the cause that you are going to get recognition because everybody's doing it. It becomes a daily practice, a daily mindset. It's really hard when somebody who needs to be supported, empowered, loved on is annoying. There are a lot of people who really need to be empowered, who really need help, and you know what? They struggle socially. Those are the ones that we need to truly walk alongside because they're less likely to get somebody to walk alongside them. It's really difficult when you don't like somebody or maybe somebody's beliefs, you're annoyed or put off by them, to want to empower them, to want to walk alongside them. And I challenge all of you today, let that be something that you don't consider when you're looking to walk alongside somebody or help. It's hard when you might be judged. I see that at schools, all the schools that I speak at, right? The whole people in general are doing a lot of judging. And when you judge somebody's behavior, when you judge, like I said, what they stand for or what they're doing, that's hard to want to empower them, right? You almost want to push them down. You want to hinder them is the human nature, but you've got to fight that because a community of consistent walking alongside and empowerment creates leaders. It creates people who are more happy. Now, I don't have the statistics, but communities that empower each other, help each other, walk alongside each other for a significant period of time create significantly higher percentages of happy people, successful people. Okay? Every single one of you are here because your parents have a dream for you. They want you to be successful. They want you to beat the odds, right? They want you, they believe that you're special. Okay? It's hard to walk alongside somebody that you don't think of as special. It's hard to try to empower somebody that you're in complete disagreement with. Right? It is so much easier to push somebody down, to get in their way, to say, I'm doing the right thing by getting in their way. I'm doing the right thing by going against them because I know that they are wrong. And I see that time and time again, and something that you guys don't understand is that when you get in the way of that, what you're not factoring in is God's plan. What you're not understanding is that there's all these pieces that are coming together, and you might be fighting against something that's great even though it looks difficult at the time. Your judgment might be right in the moment, but absolutely wrong for the long term. And when you choose, I'm not saying get on the bandwagon and do something that you disagree with or think is wrong. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is you can still be supportive and loving towards people that you disagree with. In fact, you have to be. If you want to create a community, if you want to beat the odds, right? This is going to sound wild, but even though we live in an amazing country, in an amazing state, in an amazing county in this state, many of the people your age are going to grow up to really, really struggle. Let's beat those odds. It's really hard to walk alongside somebody and have a heart to empower them when you're not going to be recognized for it. Right? Some of us are really selfish, some of us are mostly selfless, but at the end of the day, it feels kind of crummy to put a lot of work into somebody without being thanked, without being appreciated. Not being appreciated might be the I'd say most common reason people choose not to empower their peers, not to walk alongside them, not to love on them. It is really hard to empower others or to feel empowered when you are having a hard time yourself, when you've either made mistakes or people seem like they're against you, or you're having a hard time with mental health, or maybe you're having a hard time relationally, or maybe you feel alone. That's when it's really hard to walk alongside people because you don't feel like you have anything to give. And if you do have something to give, you don't feel the energy to give that to anybody. Now here's the weird dichotomy. When you choose to empower, this is going to sound weird, when you choose to empower yourself to empower those around you, even when you feel horrible, did you hear what I said? When you choose to empower yourself to empower others, that simple choice is sometimes what it takes to get out of that funk, to get out of that dip. A lot of times, the choice to look around you and walk alongside is what you need to do first in order to empower yourself. And then you've got to focus on yourself, take care of yourself, have things like boundaries, etc. But empowering yourself sometimes first starts with looking outside yourself. Does that make sense? The power of going up to somebody and making conversation, no matter how little it might be, is empowering, but it can fall flat. It can even feel crummy if it's not reciprocated. Okay? What's another way you guys are actually participating in sisterhood? I think that she's talking about a beauty in everybody and a uniqueness in everybody. And I assume there's less focus on the physical and more on what's on the outside reflects what's on the inside. And that's huge and important. Right? We get so stuck on what's on the outside. Look, the outside is sometimes a reflection of we're taking care of ourselves, and that's important if you're going to empower yourself. A part of you empowering yourself is taking care of your body, taking care of your mind every day, day in and day out, and when you get off the bandwagon of doing that, you get right back on it and then right back on it. You get rid of unhealthy habits. You work on that. Now, we all know that. But she's used this word, admiration, admire. And it's easy to admire some people. It takes work to look for things to admire in others. And when we see somebody who is aesthetically pleasing and can speak really well and has a personality that is easy to reach out to, it's easy to admire somebody like that. And that's good. I don't want you to not admire. But there are other gems that we're missing. There are some people sitting here right now who have a mind that none of you realize. They have something to offer that's not going to come till later in life because they don't have that huge, boisterous personality. And if you have a mindset of admire, I am looking for things in people to admire. I don't have to admire everything because you know what? You guys are all flawed, by the way. I am too, but you guys are all really, really flawed. Okay? And I'm going to talk about that a little bit later. But here's the thing. Every one of you has something amazing to offer this community of sisters. I want each and every one of you to ask yourself, what can you do more of to participate in this community of sisters? Okay? What can you do more of to look for reasons to admire something in somebody? How can you help somebody break down their defenses? Even if you're somebody who's quiet and never reaches out to somebody, look for those little windows that God opens up where He kind of puts that tug on your heart like, oh, I should say something. Has anybody ever felt that? There's like this moment you see somebody, it's like the perfect opportunity to say something that's nice that might build them up and might even make a connection. And you're like, ah, and you can't get it out. And then maybe you let that pass. You don't say anything. And you kind of kick yourself and then you forget it. And then this opportunity, this window, this door that God tried to open just floats away forever. But that might have been the moment that you broke down the defenses in somebody else. Now, it's not your responsibility, but in a community of sisters, you want to look for those opportunities. Do you guys know those opportunities that I'm talking about? Has anybody ever had that and ignored it or had that and you pounced? I want you guys pouncing on that. I want you to take this next month and look for those opportunities and get really uncomfortable, because a part of breaking through and making this sisterhood for these two classes something great is going to be getting awkward, getting uncomfortable, getting weird. Okay? Because when you're breaking through, it feels weird inside. You get knots in your stomach. The hairs kind of go up. You get sweaty because it might be really embarrassing. But nothing builds a community of people, empowers a community of people like the willingness to be awkward, to try something that's embarrassing. There's a few ways that I wrote down to support each other. Okay, to empower each other. The first I wrote down is spending time with other people and inviting them. Right? If you look at every teen bop movie ever written from like the 50s all the way until now, there are often these stories of somebody getting invited or not getting invited to something. And the reason that storyline keeps coming up and coming up and coming up for every single generation is because not being a part of and not being included is one of the most demoralizing, lonely, and difficult things to contend with. You know that more people suffer and create depression, develop anxiety because they are not included, because they feel alone. I own a teen therapy center, so I see teens and their parents all day long, every day. And the most depressed people have stories of bullying. But what they talk about the most is their loneliness. The fact that they're not included. And then they get into this, they put up a defense. Does anybody know what the defense of somebody who's not included what do they start saying? I like being alone, or it's okay. No, it's not. God did not create a community of people. God did not create us to be alone. He created us to help each other, to walk alongside each other, to love on each other. And so while bullying's horrible, and we need to continue to address that in the world, something that's really depowering in a community of sisters is loneliness, not including people. And why don't we include people? Because they're annoying, or because they're going to change the vibe of whatever it is that you're doing, or because you don't have enough room, and so you're not going to get creative and figure it out and hold it in somewhere, right? And at the end of the day, we have this desire to one-up each other. And climbing the ladder like that socially is not actually empowering for the community. It's empowering for like a few people. Leading people to resources. That's another way that you guys can empower each other. A way that you can empower yourself is sucking it up and taking advantage of those resources even though you don't want to do it. But if you have a resource, it might be the number of an incredible therapist that you want to guide somebody to. It might be a book that you think is amazing. It might be just the resource of your ear, listening. Right? But if you have a resource that you can tell somebody about, don't keep it to yourself. Let people know. Not participating. One of the ways that you can support, love on, and empower each other is not participating in mean things. And as I just read that right now, it dawned on me that that's not enough. Not participating is not enough. Not participating and standing up and voicing it is what it takes. Not participating is actually sometimes as bad as participating. You've got to stop participating in the mean things, even when they feel justified. A lot of you do mean things because it feels justified, or it's vengeance, or it's because that person just doesn't get it. You're going to teach them a lesson. But don't participate and stand up to it, please. One of the most amazing things I ever see or hear about in my office is when somebody stands up to their kind of like clique, their core group of friends, who they've known is not doing the right thing and is not treating people well. And the fear that I have seen teens go through, and then the guilt that they communicate to me, is astounding. But then when they get that off their shoulders, when they finally just make the decision to say, forget it, I'm standing up, I'm not participating in this anymore, I am going to stand up to it. It's this level of relief. Now, there are consequences to that sometimes. They lose friends. But I've never had a teen come in and say, I wish I didn't do that. They come in and they will cry because of what they lose. Sometimes not participating and actually standing up has major consequences, and that's what's keeping you from doing it. But get uncomfortable, do the right thing. Know that you're going to make a sacrifice. I love that you were talking about going up to people that you don't really know or hang out with and talking to them. That is how mentorship usually starts. Now, mentorship is not, your teachers can be your mentors kind of, but they're like your teachers, right? They're not in that role. You can be the same age as, older than, totally different than in order to mentor. Mentorship requires a couple of things. First, you must admire somebody. You cannot have mentorship without admiration. Okay? And next, you have to have willingness on both sides. The willingness to give of my wisdom, to give of myself, to give of my time as a mentor. And as a mentee, I must be willing to accept those gifts and reciprocate with admiration, care, and patience. The mentorship relationship is one of the most empowering things that you will experience in your life. I pray and I hope that each and every one of you one day finds somebody special in your life and you say, you know what, this is that mentor person that dude was talking about that one day that I was barely listening. I hope that you remember this, because a mentorship and then being a mentor, I pray and I hope that all of you, every single one of you, someday has a mentor and then someday can pass it on and be somebody else's mentor. Pass on your wisdom, your kindness, your love, the things that people can admire in you. You don't need to be the smartest person in the room to be a mentor. Having hard conversations. I'm glad that a few of you are really good at talking to people, and that's awesome, especially on the surface. People underestimate how important surface conversations are. Having hard conversations is another piece of the puzzle, though. Confronting somebody that might resent you for confronting them. I've got this group of guys that I've known since I went to Rosary High School. And the seasons we have been through is unbelievable. There's one guy in our group, we actually just got together last weekend and went surfing together, and we are good friends. Our kids know each other. It's really kind of a special thing. It's one of the most special things I have in my life. We have empowered each other. We've also been in fights with each other, and we have gone through seasons of not even talking to each other. And I can remember a time that I've been confronted by one of the guys in this group, and I was ticked. I didn't take it well. I didn't agree with him either. I stopped talking to him. But it was one of the most empowering and important conversations in my life, because he planted some seeds that later on led to me making some changes and me thinking about things that I needed to change to become the man that can come to is invited to Rosary to speak. Having hard conversations, but also listening when somebody's having a hard conversation with you. Get rid of your ego. Empowered people don't rely on their ego. I'm going to repeat that. Empowered people do not rely on their ego. Empowerment is a lifting up. Empowerment, though, is not an egocentric stance to take in the world. Get your ego out of the way, because the most empowered and great people in this world listen to the hard stuff. Even if it takes you a little while, it's okay to have the little temper tantrum that I had. It's okay to reject it at first, but let those seeds be planted. Okay? And a lot of times when people confront you with those hard conversations, guess what? You already knew. Usually people aren't saying something that you don't know. You just need to hear it. Right? Anybody know what I'm talking about? Yeah, a lot of heads going, yes. Honesty. Now, you know, I've never met somebody who told me, I'm dishonest. Isn't that funny? How many people have experienced people being dishonest? Right? How many people have experienced it here in the school? Right? Those same hands just went up. Isn't it interesting that if I were to ask 1,000 people about their honesty, they'd say I'm an honest person, but if I were to ask 1,000 people about other people's honesty in their life, they'd say, yeah, no, that person and that person, that's the only honest person I know. I only know one. Kind of an interesting phenomenon. Your honesty, even when it hurts, even when it's difficult, even when you might lose everything, is one of the most empowering attributes that you can have. It is something I have had to work relentlessly on throughout my life to get better and better at. Sometimes we're dishonest, not even realizing we're actually being dishonest. A lot of people are dishonest in ways that are kind of like small, and then they justify it, and then we know in the psychology field that they actually change history for themselves. They forget that they're not being honest. It's mind-blowing. It's really interesting. Honesty is one of the most empowering things you can do, but I can guarantee you this. Those of you who make a decision to be honest, even when it hurts, you've got some miserable times ahead of you, but you're going to be the most empowered people in this room. Because honesty often hurts. Giving recognition. Man, to empower the people around you means you are giving them recognition for the big and the small things, you guys. It's really easy when you have the valedictorian to recognize them and give them that recognition. Please do. Please give them that recognition. You know that it's really hard to recognize the person that was failing all year and then figured it out and got C minuses across the board? It's really easy to acknowledge that sister who is really athletic and is just doing everything good and then also smart and on top of the world, it's really easy to say, oh my gosh, you're incredible, that's so good, that's so good. It's really easy to acknowledge the people who are boisterous and popular and nice to everybody. It's really hard to recognize little changes in people when they've been working really hard to make those changes. You know what's really hard? Is when you've got that downer person, that person that just seems depressed all the time, that doesn't bring a good vibe, that annoying person in the group, and they come and they've made some changes personally. It's really hard to recognize that somebody who's wired and purposely wanting to empower the sisters around them is going to do that. Saying hi. Saying hi is one of the most empowering things that you can do. The other day, I live in Orange, next to Villa Park. There's this place called Rockwell's. It's also called The Post. It's this restaurant, and I take my 5-year-old daughter there at least once a week. And she loves it, and we've gotten to know people, and it is just like so fun for us. We go, and she gets mac and cheese at 9 in the morning and fruit, and it's really cool. And everybody thinks she's cute, and she feels like that place is hers. So she'll go up to different tables and everything. Now, but I make sure that she says please and thank you, and she says hi. And I have this thing where I'm telling her, you don't say hi like this. You don't say thank you like this. You look them in the eye, and you say thank you, and you say hello. And the other day we walk into the Post, and there's this, not old man, but this older man, and she goes up to him and says, hello, what's your name? And looks at him in the eyes and asks him what he ordered and tells him all about this trip that we had been on, right, and starts talking to this man. It was unreal. I get teary-eyed thinking about it because about an hour later, after we were done, he sat at the counter and he stayed. And we're walking out and he grabs my shoulder with tears in his eyes to tell me that that was the best interaction he had had in months. And I don't know what was going on in his life. But he said that was the first smile. He was so joyful because my 5-year-old daughter said hello. That's the power of a hello. And that's the power of eye contact. Don't give hello. You look at people in the eyes to empower them and yourself. One of the most empowering things you can do for your individual self is to have eye contact with everybody. You look people in the eyes and you say please and you say thank you and you say hello and you ask people how their day is going. And you don't just ask them trying to get on with your day because you're being polite. Care. Even if you're somebody like this young lady over here who struggles to talk to people, you know what? If you struggle to talk to people, you make it a daily affirmation to look at least one person in the eye and say, hello, how was your day? Smiling. I look around the room and some of you are smiling and some of you are not. Right now, most of you just started smiling, so that's great. I love that. When I think about empowered people, when I picture it in my mind, what I picture is a smiling person. And has anybody ever heard that smiles are contagious? Yes. Smiles are literally contagious, but they also change you. There's this saying, fake it till you make it. And it's actually an absurd saying because you cannot actually fake anything. What you can do is change your behavior and mindfully work on whatever dark emotions are going on inside you. But forcing yourself to have a smile is okay, even in the darkest of times. It's okay to cry, frown, be in a bad place, and end with a smile. Cheering for people. Showing up and cheering for people. In a community of people, you show up and you cheer them on. Now there's this thing I've noticed with high schoolers, and I can remember doing it. We do everything sarcastically because we want to be cool, right? I don't do it anymore. I'm definitely not cool. I was never cool. I thought I was. But I'm definitely not cool. I don't care. I'm not going to do anything sarcastically, and I'm not going to do anything in a spirit that is insincere. But sincerely cheering for somebody, sincerely rooting for them is unbelievably empowering for you and them. But as high schoolers, you guys are going to be, you're going to have this little thing in your mind that tells you to do it sarcastically, or just like kind of do it, or the half rah-rah, or you're going to have this defensive thing. You have this thing because you don't want to be embarrassed. You don't want to be judged. You don't want somebody to laugh at you for getting too excited. I challenge all of you to get over that. Going to things even when it's not what you want to do. It can be a sacrifice to attend the school play. It can be a sacrifice to go to an event when you're not going to know many people there. Or maybe you won't know anybody. You guys are probably all busy and have things going on, but when you can show up, show up. Especially for this community. Showing up to things when you become older has a very specific word. Does anybody know what that word is? Do any of the adults know what that word I'm thinking of is? It's called networking. Right? You show up to events even when you don't want to because you network. And the people who show up meet more people. And the people who show up sincerely, they make friends and they get acknowledged because they acknowledged other people. And those are the people who become CEOs. Those are the people who own their own businesses. Those are the people who become really successful. Those are the teachers that you notice and you're most inspired by. So get that practice in today, starting now. I already said this one, but including people is such an important way to support your community, to empower people around you. Before the month, not this month, maybe this month, but in the next month, in the next 30 days, I want every one of you to try to include somebody in something that you wouldn't normally include them in. It might be sitting out there for lunch. It might be just including them in a conversation or asking them how their day is. It might be including them in on a get-together. It might be any number of things. But go out of your way this next month to include somebody that you wouldn't include. Now, if they say no, that's on them. But make that effort. Make that, take that chance, even if you fail. The last one I wrote down is being tolerant. It is so important to be a tolerant person if you want to be an empowering person, if you want to be empowered. A lot of these things, the same things you do to empower other people actually empower you. Okay? Anybody believe that they are not tolerant? I only got one person laughing back there, raising their hand. I'm proud of you. Good for you for being honest. I hope that you work on that. It's funny because it's kind of like the honesty thing. We don't think of ourselves as intolerant, yet most of us, on an average day, are intolerant. We don't recognize the things that and the people that we're intolerant of because we justify it subconsciously. We have all these things that we've made up in our head, the reasons that we are intolerant of somebody. And our intolerances are actually, a lot of times, our judgments, and a lot of our judgments are justified by our beliefs. I don't care if you're right. Tolerance is empowerment. A part of empowering the community around you is you become influential. If I'm somebody who's going around networking, and empowering others, supporting them, building them up, loving on them, I am going to be the most influential person in that room. You cannot be influential and you cannot be empowering, and you are not empowered if you are intolerant. Tolerating, being tolerant, loving on people you disagree with does not mean that you have to agree with them. It doesn't mean that you have to change your morals and your values. It means you are discerning about when it's time to set it aside. The differences, the things that you don't agree with. You can walk alongside them even though there's those disagreements. And you walk alongside them with a heart that is loving. There's this word that Inspired Resolutions has gotten really big on, and it's resilience. We're doing some presentations about resilience, and we've been talking about it a lot. Resilience. Resilience requires perseverance, but you've got to understand what resilience is first. What is resilience, you guys? Does anybody know what that is? Good, I like that. Resilience, a part of resilience is continuing to do what you're doing, assuming that it's something that's healthy and right and good, even though it's hard for you to do it, or even though you fail. That's called perseverance. Perseverance is a big part of resilience. Resilience is about overcoming your weaknesses. Resilience is about maintaining your strengths while overcoming your weaknesses. Resilience is overcoming hurt. It's overcoming tragedy. Resilience is being willing to ask for help even when it's really difficult. Resilience is a character trait that is necessary for empowerment, especially in a community. A community of empowered people is a community of resilient people, and a community of empowered, resilient people requires a whole bunch of people willing to persevere. Try again, and fail. Try again and fail. You cannot be an empowered person. You cannot empower others without that resilient nature. And for most of us, we are not born with it. It is something that we have to make the decision to implement into our lives. Most of us have to make the choice to persevere, overcome, and become resilient. We don't just make that choice once. You have to make that choice day in and day out. Sometimes you have to make that choice 50 times a day. And you might go an entire month not making that choice, and then you got to get back on the bandwagon and make that choice again. It is not a singular decision. It is a decision that you make over and over and over and over again, and it requires patience. I've had to work my tail off to become patient in life. I was told by somebody the other day that I was they called me patient, and I was shocked because nobody in the entirety of my life has described me as being a patient person. And the fact that they said that just blew me away, because that has been something I work on day in and day out. It is one of those, that's a weakness of mine that I have to consistently pursue overcoming. But without patience, you cannot empower. Does anybody know why? Sure, you can't be resilient without patience, and the reason is nothing changes quickly. We are a world of loving instant gratification. We want to go, here's what I see a lot of people do. I made this change, right? And they come into me and they go, Brandon, I made this change and nobody around me recognizes it. And I'm going, well, great, I'm so proud of you for making that change. How many days in a row? Well, it was since yesterday. But to them, it feels like months, right? But what they don't understand is that the people around them can't acknowledge it yet, because they might have been doing that bad behavior or that thing that they need to change for years, months, for a long time. Patience is a part of empowerment and resilience, because nothing changes overnight. Because empowerment of a community, empowerment of an individual, empowerment of yourself is one of these things that has to happen time and time again. It keeps going, keeps building. It's more of this energy that you have to maintain. It isn't a change that can happen today. And I want you to picture that, right? Empowerment is an energy that you have to maintain. Put time, effort, and energy into time and over and over and over again. It is not something that you one day say, oh, I'm going to make this change. Okay, now I'm empowered. Now everything's going to be great. There's this thing that I call being comfortably miserable. Okay? Now, some of you are sitting here stuck in habits, or you're stuck in unhealthy relationships, or you're just stuck, right? Empowered people don't feel stuck. People who need to be empowered feel stuck. And a lot of stuck people are comfortably miserable. I even say this, I'm one of these therapists who's I'm kind of like harsh, like I give you feedback in the room. And I call you out when you're comfortably miserable. And that's when it is more comfortable for you to do the things that make you miserable than making the really difficult, uncomfortable changes. You would rather be miserable in your habits that you're used to, in the situation that you're used to, than to try something new and you don't know if it's going to work out. That's called being comfortably miserable. Break out of that comfortably miserable place. Get unstuck. And you know what? Here's the problem. When you try something to get unstuck, sometimes it fails miserably. In fact, the first try to get out of an unhealthy state usually fails miserably. And that is the reason most people stay comfortably miserable, is because they don't want to experience failure. Even though the failure doesn't feel as bad as the misery that they're stuck in. The last thing that I want to talk to you guys about is gratitude. And you know, being grateful is something that we do for big things, right? If I were to come in here and hand you guys each a keys to a new car, you'd be like, thank you, and you'd be able to show me gratitude, right? Now, when you get a good grade and the teacher gave you a little bit of a break and maybe an extension on a homework assignment, it's easy to be grateful, right? Right? Anybody experience that? Yeah. Somebody buys you a birthday present, it's easy to be grateful. But you see, that's not living a grateful life. Living a grateful life that is actually empowering would be thanking and being thankful, being honestly thankful to that teacher that didn't give you a break, that held you to high expectations and failed you, but loved on you while they failed you. Being grateful to that person, that's resilience. That is empowerment. Having a grateful nature, being grateful in the way that empowers a community, is searching for reasons to be grateful that that person is a part of your community that kind of puts you off. You see, a lot of life-changing gratefulness, the kind of gratitude that I'm talking about, takes work. It takes, you like have to sit there and write it out and really search and maybe have a conversation with somebody. That is when I grow. That is when I become a man of influence. So don't give up being grateful for the things that like feel good, right? I'm not telling your teachers right now to not give you some breaks here and there, but please remember that empowerment, being influential, being successful, means that I am grateful. I have a gracious attitude in both the easy things and the really difficult things. You guys were awesome today. I thank you so much. I thank you for participating. Yes? Oh, I appreciate that. Absolutely. Okay, thank you guys. Thanks, sir. Absolutely, thanks.